just half an hour past the start time. We'll have some time to plan the agenda, which is now. Anybody can propose a topic. We have a bunch of topics here. People suggested during the registration. If you like any of those, it doesn't mean you specifically need to present something. You maybe want just to learn about it, or the mirror link. Yeah, just sharing now in the chat. Or of course, it's completely fine if you want to create a new topic. So you can just put a topic, a question, and your name. And yeah, what you do is just write it and put it to any slot here. The slots are half an hour, so we'll have like 5 slots and 4 rooms. The lobby would be always open for any support you need or quick discussions or whatever, so for coordination. But for every room, for every slot, like time slot, there might be a topic. One topic might be even a bit more than 1 slot if needed. But let's define it together when we will see all the things we want to discuss. And yeah, as I mentioned, after that, we'll have a small closing session. But yeah, I will give time now to think about the session. And when you're ready, you just like put your name, put your topic, and put it somewhere, wherever you want. We will improve it afterwards, but maybe there would be some overlap in topics or something. But just put it somewhere where do you feel it's comfortable for you, and we'll improve after. Do you have any questions? Okay, if there are no questions, I'll give like 3 minutes just to think about the topic and put it somewhere. If you have any questions, just let me know. Just in case, if you're on mobile or if something doesn't work for you, you just can write me to the chat and I'll help you out.
I think sharing it broadly is.
Sorry?
Hey, Max, are we going to put our names on these? Or if we're grabbing the topic or creating a topic?
Yeah, that would help because I will ask you to present your topic in like 1 sentence or 2 sentences. So it would help if I know who to invite.
And we're okay with kind of taking the previously made topics, correct?
Yeah, it's for your creativity. If you like something, just pick it.
Thank you.
Do you need extra minute? Okay, so yeah, feel free to add if you need, but I'll just go like room by room and ask the whoever proposed the topic to just introduce what you would like to speak about. Yeah, hi Daisy, sure. Yeah, Pedro, I see you first. Pedro, could you present your topic in a few words? You're on mute, just in case.
Yeah, of course. Sorry. Yeah. So this is something that came up in the last breakout room. How different people from different levels of experience in the ecosystem struggle to understand, struggle to keep up with this complex ecosystem, with this. Oh, someone's unmuted. With this neck breaking pace and you know this multidisciplinary environment. So by leveraging generative AI, we can create, we can interact with fiction, with collaborative fiction, to better be part of this, to better make sense of this. There is metafiction, which is fiction written to break the fourth wall. There is design fiction, where we let our imagination go crazy into creating artifacts. There is speculative fiction, where we simply imagine structured what ifs, and so on. So I'd like to invite you all to this, to discussing this, to exploring, maybe even coordinating a short story. Let's do this.
Cool, thank you. So the next one is from Adam Boyle.
Hey guys, I think I really liked this topic when I saw it. I've been leaning on AI heavily to from a just a pure workflow, extra hand in facilitating all the documentation and just thoughts, and being able to kind of describe some of these more complex ideas around DAOs or regen, or Web3 in general. And then additionally, I had some really amazing experience at ETH Denver, where we created a AI Dungeons and Dragons game master bot for Discord, and now this group is white labeling it for communities, and it's this amazing onboarding tool now where they could use AI to kind of talk about your project, similar to almost Pedro's topic as well, interact with the story and learn about the project, learn about where it is. So this idea of using AI to kind of be an extra helping hand, literally communicate the aspects of your organization, I thought it'd be cool if we talked about that.
Thank you, really cool. The centralized autonomous agents network. Who proposed it? Probably some autonomous agent, right? So it will be like a joker room if nobody's. Maybe you're muted if you want to tell about this topic. If no, we can move on. Daniel. Is it Daniel's topic? I see.
He might have an issue with his mic from a previous session.
I see. Well, okay. Then there is a whole set digital twins for ReFi and more. Who's presented this?
I put them there. And I'm representing ReFi DAO, and we've got a sort of knowledge graph of projects, people, events, communities in, even deal flow and impact in ReFi, and looking to see how we can further extend that with AI and develop it and work with a network of different partners, both AI agents and human agents, to create this rich ReFi information source. And yeah, very interested in how that intersects with data commons and AI commoning, and how to make access to the information to the people who need it, so we can onboard people and connect folks within ReFi into the right places, basically. So if that's other people want to talk about that and have things to add there, then great. That'd be really cool.
Awesome. Then there is reputation system in Web3.
I also moved those there. Again, we are sort of building a DAO, and it's very interesting, I think, to how we can leverage reputation systems to effectively coordinate this global ReFi movement. So could be an interesting follow-up one if people want to have things to add there.
Sure, thank you. Then room B starts with St.
Yeah. For this, I just put that there because I thought it's quite an interesting topic to learn what possibilities you can do with like AI jobs. For example, AI consulting is one I've recently talked about with friends. But it seems like there's some very smart people here, so I think I'll probably be learning more than anything. But yeah.
Thank you so much. The topic is how not to be worried about AI people taking jobs. Yeah. So the next one is from Saya. Saya, would you like to present?
Yes, hi. I think my topic, the same like other topics in the room B section, about how to not be worried about AI taking people's job, and I want to discuss about digital tools and how they affect of nature of work in the future of work, because I'm leader of Future of Work project, and I'm interested like how people think, how these tools help or change their culture, change their lifestyle, and so on. Yeah, and I'm not sure. Maybe I can join. It's not the same time. Yes. Because I want to join also B1. Maybe we can split this topic.
Yeah, sure.
Around AI comments and collaborative AI, rather than AI being in the hands of just a few people, and how Web3 concepts like DAOs can play a role here.
Okay, cool. And there's another topic on community. Let me mute.
Yeah, that was me. It might be a little bit too late because I need to leave before, so maybe there's another slot. But I think the positive wasn't originally mine, but when I saw it, there was something resonating in me. As a many-year community coordinator in different communities in modern age, I'm really curious about how AI can facilitate and support fostering thriving virtual communities, because by now it's just like an overload of chats and different channels. Like there's too much. So like how it can support us collaborating, coordinating more efficiently together in different communities, how to filter through relevant information, very open dialogue, more like just an exploration area for that thing.
That's cool. There is some space in room D, for example. We can like switch afterwards.
Cool.
But let's hear other topics and maybe we'll see some intersections. So the next one is from Andreas. Web3 plus AI for policymakers. Andreas, would you like to present? You're on mute, just in case. Maybe out of computer for now. But yeah, seems something about policy. Then Stepa.
Yeah, so I wanted to talk about, basically today we have large private models such as GPT or BART or Anthropic, and we have public data that they're trained on, and also anything that you enter into those large language models ends up being on OpenAI or Google servers. And it seems like there's almost a consensus in this group that these should be decentralized. So we want to get from private models to public models, open source models, and there's already a trend in that. And also we want to get maybe to more privately stored and sovereign data that is used. And I think we have technologies, we have pieces of technologies already. The problem is, and the topic for discussion is, how do we get there? Like, what products do we need? What initiatives? Maybe regulation, maybe it should be DAOs, maybe it should be startups. I don't know. It seems like a needed switch, and I want to discuss it. Thank you.
Thanks. The next one is generative AI and DAO culture. If you propose it, please share a few words about it. Nope. Okay. So yeah, the next one is from Juan.
Yes, I think that it's always good to talk about the things that concern us, and like lowering the waterline to express some things like the work that are things that are already on the table, but also, for example, what patterns are we reproducing, and if technology is blind, if we go faster, where are we going to? So yeah, that's the invitation to discuss.
Okay, thank you. Then the social, spiritual, arts, and entrepreneurship.
I also moved that one. I didn't make it, but I think it's interesting.
Okay. And yeah, it seems like all the topics were presented. Again, if you feel like you forgot to add a topic or something, you can do it anytime. But yeah, let's speak about needed rearrangements. Do you want to rearrange it somehow? Maybe give more time, or maybe a switch timing? Just tell me what you think.
I need to move mine upward somewhere from the last session. So maybe D3. From B5
Yeah,
to D3.
sure.
Check.
Sure. Marco, could you please release the card so I can move it, or you can move it just yourself? Yeah, thank you. Anybody else sees the needed change? Okay, so now I'm creating the rooms. You can always refer to the board to see which section, like which session is in which room. Let me also quickly remind you the principles of the Unconference. So, yeah, link to the mirror board again. Okay.
Hey, Max.
Yeah.
Two things before starting the breakout rooms. One is the Google Docs links that are there. I think they are locked, so they will avoid people taking notes during the sessions. That will be I can't click on them. But those
Okay.
Google Docs, just in case you can know, are provided or are there because you can use them to take notes during each session per block. I mean, per room, per session. So are available there for you. Just that. And the other question Monty's asked, timing looks wrong on the board. The time is based on the duration of the session. This is a 4-hour session, so yeah, it's more like distributed from now to till the end of the session. That's the way we can like perceive the timing with this template. That's all. Thanks. Back to you, Max.
Yeah, can you repeat the time section? It's like now we go the session 1 is the A1, B1, C1, D1. Yes, this room.
Exactly.
And it might be half hour.
More or less, yes. That would be the time.
Section. Ah.
Since we're going to, yeah. That's more or less the timing.
Okay, thank you.
I think I want to be in room B1, so I moved my D1 to D2 and mixed like my two topics. So if anyone wants to create a new one in D1, it's welcome.
Okay, that's good. Well, maybe we can, again, feel free to put anytime. It's if you want to be in the other session, it might be also a concern. But just quickly to recall the principles, it's whoever comes to the session are the right people. Whatever happens is the only thing that could happen. Whenever it starts, it starts. Whenever it's over, it's over. And always remember about law of 2 feet. If you don't like something, you can switch to any room anytime, explore, and just find the topic that's most suitable for you. Do you have any other questions before I open the rooms? You can always come to the lobby. I'll monitor there if you would need to talk to me or like write it in the chat, in the Telegram or Zoom. Okay. Opening the rooms. Just you need to go to the menu of Miro or of Zoom, and sometimes it's like under the like 3 dots and breakout rooms, or sometimes it's just like really visible, and then you select the room you would like to go to.
Hey, Adam.
Long time no see. Good to see you, brother.
Long time no see, yeah.
Hey.
Hey, Stefan.
Hey, Genesi.
Hey.
Hey.
Well, I'm going to support the next session. I don't know if Pedro will be the first one or Emilia, but I want to support on taking some notes while you are discussing. I'm also going to discuss.
Awesome.
I'm not going to escape. Just facilitate
Yay,
the
much appreciated.
documentation. So who is going to start? Pedro, Emilia? I think, yeah. You are the 2 ones.
Yeah, I think you can start. I think you can start with a quote. So there's this classic quote from Ursula K. Le Guin, amazing sci-fi writer. She said that we live in capitalism. Its power seems inescapable, but then so did the divine right of kings. Any human power can be resisted and changed by human beings. Resistance and change often begin in art. very often in our art, the art of words. So I'd like to open with this quote, as we are here to discuss how we can leverage AI to better make sense of this humongous, multidisciplinary, complex, fast-moving ecosystem we are at. Now becoming even more complex as we intersect Web3 and ReFi with AI solutions. And to remind us of having fun, finding pleasure, joy, fulfillment, being artistic in our creation, in the footprints we leave behind. So I like to bring these to set the mood, and I pass it forward.
Pedro, when you say collaborative fiction, like, can you just explain that concept to me in general? Is it like writing a story together, or if you don't mind, just
Yeah,
thank you.
of course. There are several methodologies and frameworks we can leverage for collaborative fiction. So yes, we can write a short story together, for example. That will be the most straightforward. Then we have it as a game, like a RPG, a tabletop RPG, or MMO RPG. And then we have design fiction, which we are applying design principles, design systems to generate imaginary artifacts. For example, there is a crazy one I found recently, where they award carbon credits to eco-terrorism, to eco-sabotage. Of course, nothing illegal, nothing too harsh, but small acts of civil disobedience. And of course, it was fake, but fake is not the right word. It was fictional but functional. And there you have design fiction, a collaborative piece of fiction. And finally, there's also metafiction, which is when you write, you create a world only to have its fourth wall broken. So you are reaching out to readers, you are reaching out to anyone who's watching or listening, and that can be done for educational purposes, to spice things up, to bring people as themselves to what the story is trying to entice, and that is also collaborative, right? And finally, we have less collaborative, but still other interactive pieces of fiction. So we have a basic YouTube videos where you pick which course of action character takes it in a video, or even a Notion page where you can pick the next page to click, unfolding different actions. And then we have video games and other board games that are less narrative intensive. Anyway, there's this, there are endless possibilities for collaborating on dreaming together, on sharing stories together.
I can actually provide one example that I recently built. It might be a good example of what's possible. Very simple experiment, but I used OpenAI API and Snapshot as DAO voting tool to basically build a system where people can collaboratively write a story, almost like a book, but every piece of narrative is generated by AI, and human input is selecting like which way does this story go. So you have a beginning of a story, then you have a few options. People vote for those options with tokens or whatever system it could be, but any snapshot strategy. And then that result is sent back to OpenAI, and then it generates the next part of the story. It turns out that it is surprisingly good at writing good narrative stories and kind of following the arc of the story, and you need to prompt it, but it's relatively simple. So this kind of collaborative art where you combine artificial and collective intelligence, I find very interesting, and there's a lot of potential in that, and especially if you add like 3D and music generation and 3D models and voice and basically multimodal approach. It's not simple to build like a real good game or world or metaverse out of it, but it's definitely possible already today.
That's super interesting. If you have any link, any reference to share about that, which reminds me of Dungeon AI, which does something similar, but I think uses a less advanced model. But you can download this app and play with AI Dungeon Master on your phone or online.
I do want to add, and I apologize for speaking twice, but we did something similar in ETH Denver, not quite, but I mentioned on the intro, and I'll post a link here. But we were doing collaborative fiction. We didn't even know it. But you know, it's a dungeon master. You're kind of choosing, you know, what I do, go help the people, etc., and then it writes the rest of that story, and it gives you another place to go, and you could roll dice and stuff. There's like a gamifying element. But that multi-model approach, or we at the very end of the adventure, it sums up what happened and sends it to an AI art generator, and then mints that as an NFT. So kind of like if you slayed a dragon that day, you get a cool dragon NFT. So definitely check that out as well. It's super cool. But then I like the idea of sort of white labeling it or changing it up in a way that we kind of like sneak in education maybe, or to Amelia's topic, you know, how do we you know, use this type of technique to kind of communicate these complex topics. But you could try it now. It's live on that Discord if you guys are curious.
Yeah, I was just wondering, like, what do we mean by understanding Web3 and AI in this context? So it's really interesting, all these apps kind of harnessing AI and Web3 to create these tools. But does that help understand AI or Web3, or how could it be, you know, you were talking about like taking it to an educational level. How could it be not just a tool that is based on these technologies, but actually helps educate on these technologies? And the first thing that comes to mind is like these apps that teach you how to code, especially for kids, and it's like a coding game. Yeah, I don't know, that's just what comes to mind, almost like a game that teaches you stuff. That's like the first thing that comes to mind. So I wonder if there's a path there towards making these games an educational tool.
Kendra, I couldn't capture the idea. It's like are you asking if for example, when a tool could be used to like just to play with it, or and when it can become something to be used as a educational tool? It's like that. So
I guess
like where is the limits between one and the other one?
I don't know if it's exactly that. It's more like, you know, it sounds like these tools, that these games that were mentioned before are using AI and Web3 in order to create the game. But then, you know, is the objective of this talk, you know, to discuss how to create fiction that could teach you about Web3 and AI, not just that uses that technology, but where, you know, actually playing the game or reading the fiction helps you learn a little bit more about AI and Web3. And I was wondering, you know, maybe it's around like how could games like these or concepts like these be adapted in order for them to be teaching tools around Web3 and AI?
For sure. I can give an example. So there is a short story by an amazing writer, Malka Alder. I think I mentioned her to you. She wrote about data cooperatives. Data co-ops are like DAOs specialized for managing private data, user data in a way that benefits those that generate that data instead of being used against them or being used to exploit them. And the short story does an amazing job to introduce the topic, to illustrate how it works by narrating daily chores, by immersing the reader into how it could be beneficial. And after the short story ends, there is another person doing an analysis on it. So by writing about a slice of life or how it works, how we feel like to be part of something, a type of organization, or applying a concept, by inviting this immersive learning, and also applying some sort of analysis or some sort of paced learning or some other technique, not just the fiction piece. We can disarm some defenses, some stiffness, and simply learn better. So wrapping up, we can use fiction to learn these things by writing how these things would look like in practice, would look like in the near future, and then applying some simple analysis or educational framework shortly after it. And we can also invite people to add their questions, their doubts as part of the story. That would be also another way.
Yeah, so it's kind of like a simulation of a desired future in a way. Like using fiction to simulate potential futures and get people involved within that vision.
Yeah, futures, situations, problems. I love the idea of using fiction not only to introduce concepts in maybe risking sounding pedantic, but also inviting people to apply critical thinking to those situations. By painting a more immersive picture, it might be easier to find gaps, to find vulnerabilities for like greenwashing, for other unintended consequences. So the idea of this learning is to be active in all its ways. Active as in you can change the fiction, impact the fiction somehow, but also you can contest what is trying to be introduced there. The what if, it's not just what if it perfectly happens, but also what if this that we were dreaming together went wrong?
Yeah, absolutely, like a simulation kind of.
And also, one thing that I think would be quite interesting there is if, for instance, there would be like multiple people like interacting with things like kind of shaping their own story, how these different stories and futures can interact with each other. So maybe if you have, let's say, like an instance of an AI working in a specific community that already has like some of the context, and it's kind of like a smaller group. Maybe the futures that the people like of the community like develop, and like the places where the storytelling like goes, how could it in turn be brought back somehow like to the AI that could like develop further and so on with the community input in some way.
Thank you for helping taking notes.
Oh yeah, for sure. Trying to add labels to the URLs. If anyone can add more references, more examples, anything slightly related to this topic, it would be amazing to read more, to learn more.
Yeah, I actually saw one recently. I have to find it, but it was around understanding the future of AI by doing kind of role playing, like real life role playing games with various people. So one of them would be like an AI engineer, another would be like a government agent, and they would kind of like have discussions in order to like identify what would happen with AI and what, for example, what regulations would be imposed or how the AI would be created. Let me see if I can find it, because that was actually really relevant to this.
I'm totally new in AI. Like this is something that I cannot provide much information. I'm here to learn, but something that it's been around. I'm a climate activist, and something that it's always around is we have this dystopian history, the stories. We have so many dystopian stories. We have so much science fiction that is showing the end of the world. We have such a clear idea on what's happening, where are we going, and also based on climate science. But we're missing a story, like an utopian story. If we don't have a good idea where to go with an utopic mindset, it's much easier to go to what we know, and we start building this narrative of fear that is also providing people to be on fear and stop acting. So this could be also used to create some kind of utopian, but not so utopian, and an utopian based on facts or where we can achieve. Of course, we are going straight to collapse, ecological collapse, but how much? So how can we create stories that are more utopians and that allow us to have some kind of good perspective on where to go and to avoid this fear and this absence of acting, because we know that everything is crashing. The problem with utopic stories is that if it's so utopic, that this is where I think AI can provide how much utopic it can be. Because if we think on the worst thing, we have a lot of information on that. But where is the best scenario that we can go based on AI analysis of information? I think this could be useful, AI, on creating utopic stories that we can use to build a better future, or have a reference of what the better future looks like. Because we see solar punk, but even if you try to find pictures or images of solar punk, we only have there's the same 15 pictures everywhere, and we have this main idea of solar grids and people with flowers, and that's not gonna. I don't think that that's the only idea that we can have. We could have a better thing, a better utopian, like what a solar punk would look like, and other ideas on how they would look like. Eco-brutalism.
Well,
yes, for sure.
During the last actually Unconference experience, we discussed about these concepts about this topic words, and at the end we went to this another concept that I at that time I didn't know what was that about, but it is more like it is actually and it's something that is true. We don't have just one future; we have so many futures ahead from now on to the whatever, because we don't know what our end would be. So I think the important let's say things we can do I mean, the future we are building is our present, actually. But I really perceive it really interested what you are mentioned, because how can we actually focus more on the positive side using this technology, AI, to build this ideal future we believe that is ideal for us, from our point of view and from our experience. So I prefer happy stories, but of course not everything is happy. But how can probably we can use AI to understand objectively what we can build with all the data we have available. It is a really good way of start and see if we can imagine that future world. I like that. That's what I think.
For sure. I like to add on that that not only the theme of the stories, the less pessimistic, less fatalistic stories, but also their very structure. We are still stuck in hero stories. We're still stuck into monolithic structure of stories of heroes, villains, this amazing person overcoming amazing odds by themselves, and this very structure leads to capture, to the otherism, and there are other structures possible. When we imagine better futures, it's even better if we can imagine better ways of telling those stories. There is one framework alternative to this, also from Ursula Le Guin, that is called the carrier bag theory of fiction, where she leverages the idea that probably containers, bags, pouches came way before spears and other weapons. That our existence is driven in a much deeper level towards cooperation, towards teamwork than simply violence or the otherism. And she applies that to fiction by ensuring that there is a diverse range of protagonists, that the answer to the challenges to be overcome are beyond violence or a dragon to kill, and telling stories of cooperation, really. How can we make them enticing? How can we overcome the desensitization of such stories? I'll post a link about it.
There's this like scary idea, or I don't mean to kind of like bring it to a negative point, but like these AI models currently are built on, the era of the internet, and it's all trained on seemingly probably one of the more negative points in history. So I wonder, there's like built-in bias to these large language models that we currently have, something ancient like that, where like inherently we actually are more teamwork oriented creatures, that might be completely lost upon the AI because it's just trained on, I don't know, 15, 20 years of us being on the internet, being trolls. So I wonder what limitations or challenges will be there, or maybe we have to build models that are like nice or trained on some of the more virtuous aspects of humanity. It's interesting.
And one thing that I'm kind of interested in is like what would be like a context in which this like a little bit more like this alternative positive stories where then these can be told and like passed forward. because I think a context is quite relevant for like a story to move forward and to like be embedded somehow into like the collective knowledge or like collective imaginary of a community. And I think today we have a lot of like places with a lot of things going on. So I would think that it could be somehow challenging to see like what could be like a place where you can be immersed and also like share your own stories, like share your things, and what would be like the context for this to be able to grow and be shared between people.
I'm glad that you asked. At Floristic, we're trying to develop such spaces. We've been experimenting. We've been doing small experiments for a little while now, where we during ReFi cohorts, so ReFi bootcamps, courses, workshops, we add some space for that. We allow for some space, and we've been trying to model this in a way that is not just fun, but also learn to earn. So what if not only we play around, we create such stories or interact with them, and we can offer artifacts from these games, from these experiments, to be sold or to be staked, to be invested. So we have, a flow of good energy, of funding to everyone involved. And we are in the process of opening a Discord server where we will have a more permanent space for such experiments. I'll post the link in the document. I can post the link in the chat as well. Please join us.
Nice. This was a nice conversation. Really interesting. Probably, I don't know, because of time, probably we can also start considering jump to the next topic if we consider and you consider, Pedro, the topic is almost wrapping up.
Yeah, thank you for the reminder. It was really good to have this discussion and to find more references. I'm looking forward to playing around with them, and I hope you all enjoyed. We have the document, and it's going to be open for the whole duration of the conference. We will have a report later. I'm glad that so many people are interested on this. I would love to keep exchanging more, and it doesn't matter if it's in our Discord server or somewhere else. Let's try writing a short story together with AI, folks. Let's find a way. Where there is will, there is a way.
Yay. Well, actually, I added here.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Pedro. I actually added here Commons Stack simulator. If you haven't had the opportunity to play with it, it is an interesting tool, but it is not based on AI, but still interesting to explore. Thank you so much, Pedro, for bringing up this topic for the conference. Yeah. Well, Max also sent a message. Let's start with the next topic. So, Emilia, the stage is yours.
I know I learned a lot from this. Actually, I have to go, so I put this note because I have to leave to another call. And so I left this note to support the first prompt because I think they are related. And I'm gaining a lot of tools and things. For sure, I'm into with Pedro to write, to co-create a story. I think we deserve a better story.
Fantastic. It's
Thank you
okay.
so much. I have to leave, but I'll get in touch with you, Pedro.
Don't worry, don't worry. See, for example, if you can't, as you need to go, but this topic seems, yeah, similar to Pedro, or has some,
I think it's
yeah, you can also, or do it later. You can join later, or you can also bring this same topic during the open agenda days, starting from tomorrow.
okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you
Yeah,
so much.
thank you.
I learned a lot. Thank you.
Don't worry.
Bye. I have to leave.
Bye.
Bye.
Robin. Okay, let's add this information. On how to use, okay, let's add this.
Yeah, it's a science fiction book, but that's the first book I instantly thought about that question specifically, because it's a journey about a small girl getting an AI book, and it facilitates the perfect learning curve for her and how she works and how she sees the world, for her to understand and learn what's most efficient in her situation all the time through storytelling. So it's a very inspiring science fiction novel, but I recommend it.
I'm like super excited about it. Actually, suddenly I saw Who's It By, and that sounds like so perfect. Like I'm going to read it like ASAP. So cool.
Yeah, please do.
I think I'm technically next. But it's a lot like Amelia's topic too, right? A2, Lindsay.
I'm on that. My computer is a little bit slow. But
No
yeah,
worries,
you're
no
the
worries.
next one. Let me use this Google Doc, which is now open. It's locked. I told Max, hey, this is locked. Help me. Sorry, it's room A, session 2. Since I'm the owner, I can do this. But what
No
people,
worries.
I'm worried about other sessions. But okay. Let's see. Okay.
Yeah, so I was wondering if just to start off, we could kind of get a bit more pragmatic, or if we could go around real fast and talk about people's use of AI. For this topic, I was kind of thinking about just using all these AI tools to help us communicate as Web3 organizations. I'm even, interested in how far the Unconference has used it. It'd be cool to just get some ideas from each other as far as, maybe things we haven't heard before, and maybe that'll help kick off the conversation. Does anybody want to start? We'll do like a popcorn thing. I'll grab Pedro to start us off, if you don't mind. How have you been using AI, Pedro, to just like communicate your project or your Web3 community stuff?
Yeah, of course. So I've been having a lot of fun with text to image AI. And I've been making sure that my material is more gracious, the pops, the NFTs I generate express better the emotions I try to convey, and even just being serendipitous, just making myself open to luck, to randomness, by mixing different concepts, aesthetics, so on and so forth. And besides that, a little bit of AI transcription, so audio to text. It's so helpful. Anyway, and finally, text to text. I am using this every day for almost a year now, and I discussed this on a breakout room before. I've been using it in two ways. One is as Photoshop for writing. So I can mess around with writing as if I was using if I were using Photoshop. And it's really great. I can play around with the landscape of my message this way, with the topography of it. And the second way is as a drunk assistant. So when I consult with AI, when I ask questions, when I search for clarity, I treat it as a drunk assistant. So sometimes it's brilliant, sometimes it's unreliable, sometimes it's funny. I really enjoy bringing this perspective. Actually, not even as a drunk assistant, but as the emulation of a drunk assistant, because it's important to not anthropomorphize the AI, right? It can be problematic when you add when you give it a person's name or you start treating it as a human. It's important to remember it's an emulation, it's a simulacrum, it's as if.
Did I
And
capture,
I think,
Pedro? Sorry, Pedro. Did I capture the idea? Did you
yeah.
say emulation of a drunk assistant? Yeah, that's not funny. But you
Exactly.
mentioned something about Photoshop. Could you repeat that part? Because I really.
Yeah, yeah, of course. Sorry if I'm going too fast. It's Photoshop for writing. So we use Photoshop for images, for photos, for illustration. Text to text AI, I've been using also as a Photoshop for writing. So I can make it longer, change the tone, change the pace, add jargon, simplify, you know.
Okay, sounds
So
interesting.
these are the main approaches, but the main purpose of making all those uses, applying throughout as many workflows as possible, is to add more poetry to my work. So from saving energy with photoshopping writing, with having a drunk assistant, the purpose of saving this energy is not to simply be more productive, to output more, but from saving that energy to add more art, to add more poetry, to have more fun, to find more pleasure in this work. And from there, to allow for more collaboration. This collaboration that is not, simply surviving or fighting against the world's end, but also doing that with grace.
That's awesome. Pedro, you want to pick someone who goes next? I love this drunk assistant thing. I think it's a great way to think about it.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm curious about Jeremy's perspective. I'm a fan of his work as well.
Hey, Jeremy.
My perspective is super limited. I have not used it, and I find it kind of boring. Anybody else?
It's interesting. What would be interesting, Jeremy? Did you find it like lackluster? It's not delivering? Is the fact that it's just like a drunk assistant, it's not kind of living up to what you need?
No, I mean, like my brain already generates an infinite amount of content. And so if anything, I need more help editing that down into something usable. So the sense that I have of an explosion of content seems less than helpful. Anybody else?
I have used it in the past, like, I have like these giant notions and it's literally scrap. But I do find, and it's not so great at this, but it's still pretty good. And I wonder if anyone else is using it like that, where using it to make sense of your ideas, to kind of like, hey, turn this into a bulleted point, list, make this more concise. Does this make sense? How do these ideas apply? I'll even be like, what is this guy talking about? And when I'm referencing myself. But then again, it is, maybe It's very
Yeah.
sort of basic in its way of cutting these things off. But that's how I go about that type of yeah, I think we're talking about GPT and other tools as well that we could use online currently.
Come on.
I think I can chime in quickly. Also, like just read a little bit about like my experience, like what I've been using it for, and this kind of things. I've tried it. I tried using it in like different ways to see like what was kind of like the way that it would like fit me the most. Either using it to like making sense of my own ideas or like trying to bring like some additional ideas to the table. And I eventually found out that what I basically do, like
Desire.
use this.
Are you
Sorry,
done?
Jeremy?
Yeah, I saw.
Someone's
Oi, oi.
muted.
Yes.
Yeah. And yeah, so basically what I like to use this kind of tools
Here you go,
for
buddy.
is
Sorry,
for closing.
Jeremy, can you mute yourself just a
Oh
while?
shit, my bad, guys.
And yeah, so I basically really like using it to close feedback loops, basically. So for me personally, I didn't really find it so interesting for me personally, like to get like new ideas or to write like entire things for me, because I always found that it was weird to me to output something that wasn't directly like in my kind of like style, in the way that I would do these things. But I found it really useful to validate my ideas, to validate what I've been doing. So for example, if anything that I do, I do it like fully like alone, as I would do if there was no AI. But then in the end, like I try to like pass it through a lot of times. So, oh, what do you think of this? What can be improved? Or then maybe just like playing around and doing like some operations, like taking one section of a text, one section, I don't know, of a document, a proposal, anything, and saying, okay, so write an entire thing about like just this section, and then seeing like what is kind of like missing to have like an entire, like a more like holistic picture and so on. And I think it's really good like for as a tool for learning, because when you do these kind of things, so let's say, I don't know, you're preparing like a report or something like that, or yeah, a text. When you do this kind of like somehow like validations and running through it, you learn like how you could improve yourself, basically. Because also you can see, and you can see like what would be the validation, like what the suggestions of the AI, and say, okay, I agree with this or I don't agree with this. So it's not necessarily like that the AI is like right and it's going to tell you how you need to improve yourself and so on. And other than that, I think one other good example is like to learn things. So either in that way, like by doing, or for example, like learning a language. Because for instance, I think that, you know, like you have like a lot of like translation tools and so on. But these kind of tools have usually, they usually give you an answer, but they don't say if like the way that if the thing that you thought, the way the thing that you wrote, for instance, is right, is like really wrong. So for instance, if I'm learning like a new language, I may be able to put a sentence together. If I put the same sentence like in my native language and try to like have the output in the desired language in a Google Translate, for instance, probably there will be a different output than the one that I thought, but it doesn't mean that mine was wrong. So how can I know, how can I do this validation and kind of like, yeah, use it as a learning tool mostly. Yeah, and that's my use of AI tools for now, but looking forward to exploring it, expanding it as well.
Something real quick you might want to check out is it's called like tree of thought method, and it's like, hey, there's 3 experts in a room, have them hash out this idea, you know, do 10 rounds, etc. You could find the prompt online, but you could see their train of thought, and then you would be like, oh, I didn't think about that. But I like the idea of validating stuff so that you could, you know, the better you understand your own ideas, the easier it is to communicate it to other people as well.
Cool.
That's also the way I have been using AI to find better ways also to explain things, because sometimes, well, English is my second language, so I need to really guarantee that what I'm explaining is accurate and is right to the point. I'm not adding extra words, because in Spanish we add so many words to explain something, and in English it's like just 3, and you capture the idea. So that's one of the uses I have taken advantage of AI, and the other one is like to paraphrase ideas also. That's the other way I like finding another way of saying the same but with other words. Yeah. That's those for now are the things the uses of the AI in my daily work, right? Yeah, basically that. When I use it to generate ideas, I know actually it is not like I find it not boring but useless sometimes. Probably I'm not using the best tool for doing it, because for example here in Venezuela we don't have access to just ChatGPT. So when Bard when Google announced Bard, I tried that right away, because it's like the way I can actually use a similar tool. So I haven't had that experience on deeply using ChatGPT to generate content. I know, for example, Ivy or the other Trusted Seed gardeners, she's really using it for creating content for Trusted Seed, since we are just 3 in the teamwork. We need extra help, and why not to take advantage of AI? And she's really, killing it. She knows how to use it for that purpose, to create a better and engaging content for Trusted Seed. So, yeah.
I think Ivy
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Ivy.
Oh,
Yeah,
Ivy's here.
that's true. Yeah, I've been since I learned how to use ChatGPT, I've been relying on it when creating content. So I've been using ChatGPT to repurpose content. So usually I would start with a tweet. I would ask it to create a Twitter thread about this topic, and then after it creates a Twitter thread, I would ask it to turn it into an email or turn it into a pitch deck. So creating grants, I've used it so many times in different situations and different purposes. And I also I also learned how to use Kyber. It's like Mid-Journey, but it's an animated version, because Mid-Journey is so expensive. And from Give It's AI hackathon, someone suggested to use Kyber, and it's way cheaper than Mid-Journey. So it's been also very helpful for me. So yeah, overall, I think using this AI tools, the ChatGPT particularly has been very helpful in creating content, and even in my personal like decision making. Like for example, I'm deep in my thoughts. Like I asked ChatGPT to compare this in making decisions. Like just getting the idea of of it's crazy. It's like I have friends in real life, but sometimes I feel like it can give me a more logical reasoning, because it's it has more suggestions. And also Chat GPT has like, maybe it's not doesn't give me the right content that I'm looking for right away, but it helps lay the foundation of the whatever work content, especially in grant writing. And so what I'm only worried about is like, maybe I'm becoming too dependent on Chat GPT. And I feel like sometimes I feel like my brain is not maybe I'm not getting as smart as like I used to be. Like because it feels like AI is Chat GPT is doing the thinking for me. So I try to make sure that I still train my brain in other tasks. So yeah, that's how AI has helped me with the communications in my job.
I think just that aspect of the repurposing stuff from a communication point of view. Like we've talked about, there's some, as far as it generating ideas or things like that, but it seems immensely useful when it comes to just repurposing ideas and then being able to spread those ideas quickly. And then I also just love the idea of asking it about decisions, getting like a second opinion. I feel like I'm often afraid to ask my friends or to look silly. It's interesting how comfortable we are with asking AI silly questions. Does anybody else want to jump in about their particular use case? I do just want to talk about real fast how we could actually open up AI to people in our communities to ask the AI questions directly. And if you guys have any experience doing that as well.
Actually, there's a
go ahead. Sorry.
There's a Giveth project to do exactly that, or we already have a test Giveth AI bot that has been trained on our docs and can like respond to questions and things like that. And there's a test Discord that I could invite people to if you want to try it.
I see that, like, it should be in every single Discord. It should be in all sorts of different channels. There should be different ideas, maybe learning styles. Maybe one of the AI bots generate images or infographics, but we're doing all this work to repurpose our ideas and then spread it out. It'd be nice if people can come to our communities and then get those same ideas really quickly from the AI as well. That's super exciting, and that's awesome. I'm not surprised. Giveth is like crushing it on the whole tech stack thing.
Just curious, Griff, I don't know, I'd just have to comment, but I was just wondering how you've built that. Was it easy? Is it an openly available tool? Is it something that we could look to implement at ReFi DAO?
I mean, I am not the dev, of course, and I have my fingers in too many pies. So I can't tell you exactly how we built it, but I can invite you to the channel and you can ask Sam and Mateo, who are really leading the project. Sam, Mateo, and Lauren are the ones who really are in the know. So, but I can, maybe I'll just put an invite here and see. I hope they don't get mad at me for doing this, but I'll do it anyway. So.
Well, thank you. I'll be respectful.
Auntie, there's a free one too. I built something with these guys in East Denver. You'll upload a PDF and you can get it on your Discord really fast. They don't charge for the basic version. Really cool group as well, but obviously very limited sort of. I'm not trying to sell anything, but just another thing for you guys to check out as well. Like I have a little my DAO is trying to cross like Web3 and, and outer space, and everything about it is incredibly confusing. So just when people onboard to my Discord, they immediately get thrown into a conversation with the AI, and it's still pretty limited, obviously, but it's helped immensely just from that step alone. We got about 6 minutes left. Anybody waiting for stuff? Like we talked about how we're using it right now. Like I'm curious where it's going to be. It's crazy. Like I'm curious where it's going to be in 6 months, let alone like 2 years from now. But anybody waiting for it to do something? I know, Jeremy, you're not like super happy with it yet, but I'm just curious if anyone has any thoughts or they're really waiting for a particular feature for it to be able to do something.
I was really sad. I like broke the screen on my phone and I had to go buy a new phone. And while I was doing it, I was like, man, I wish I could just wait a year for AI to be integrated really well into the phone. Where it's just like I feel like the next phone generation is going to be out of this world.
I could see that. It's going to be on the operating system level. So hopefully they'll just send you an update and suddenly the AI will be there and you won't have wasted your money. We'll see. I love the movie Her. I like truly love that movie. I'm living in like a fantasy land. Like I was waiting for this and it hit like 6 months ago. I'm like, oh, it's here. It's here.
There's something about the movie that I'm particularly fond of. It's such a tiny detail, but During, sorry for the spoilers, during the phase where they start bringing some personalities back from the dead, you know, emulating their personality, they bring Alan Watts, which was a guy pretty good at transcribing, bridging Eastern philosophy, particularly Taoism, to Western minds and culture. And I have the impression, the opinion that by leveraging such connections, conversations with such minds, the AIs in the movies had easier, healthier singularity or self-awareness process, so to speak. Like the movie, besides other things, depicts that, and like someone mentioned in the previous session, like we're training our AIs on a troll-based internet, on, you know, such a unhealthy digital culture, what is going to happen. And then the movie depicts that the intelligences chose to digitalize some very interesting minds, to have some very interesting conversations, and that probably helped them have such a smooth transition to super intelligences. This is something it's small, but it caught my attention.
Yeah, and I think like one thing that I also really like with AI tools is like somehow related to that is to kind of like try to see the relations between different topics or maybe like between different people. So not yet like having kind of like an AI that is trained, like for example, like on a specific person, for instance, but try to see like the relation between like thoughts of different persons, like between different thoughts. Maybe you just think like have an intuition like on your mind that like, oh, something sounds like slightly connected, or sounds like as there could be like an interesting connection with this other topic, and then you can kind of like use it to see if there's these kind of things, and try to have more like of use it to see like things from different perspectives. That I think is really cool.
I'm trying to think of like the coolest thing that AI could like do tomorrow. I'm really trying to have one that like I take notes on my notepad. One, I need like a really nice tablet where I could take notes. But I just want an AI to like keep track of everything. Like, hey Adam, based off of the past 2 weeks, you need to go to the dentist. You've been eating a lot of like junk food, you know? Like I would just love that. Right now it's like limited. I have to constantly update it. Like, remember what we were working on? Yes. Oh, organize my memes. Yeah. Well, I don't know if you wanted to unleash it on the meme folder. This is, and maybe even have it do stuff and it doesn't learn, you know? No, Pedro, you meant to do, you were screaming. We're very serious about this.
Meme folders. What's that, Pedro? I don't have that. But I agree with you, Adam. I think that will be so helpful. I'm always forgetting things, so that will be a nice to have in my life.
Even on in an organization, like I want people to be able to go to the Discord and be like, where's it at? Where on the roadmap are we? Like, what's the new events happening? Like, you know, you could update it if you use that link. You can constantly update this doc, but it's like, I wanted to like just watch the whole Discord and keep track of everything. We'll get there. It'll probably be out in like 3 weeks, honestly.
Probably.
I think we're in the last seconds of the call. I just have one last thing I almost forgot. We currently experience an internet that is like a Babel tower. Things do not communicate with each other. And I am hoping that AI through conversational interface, conversational experience can bridge those walled gardens so we can make information context, warm data, be connected, interact with each other, so we can have a more complete experience. Like we can have a more conversational experience that includes all those apps, like you mentioned, you know, like keeping track of things, organizing things. That is so siloed right now. I'm really hoping that AI can help us bridge that.
Yeah, and I missed the session, but I think we might have another conversation about it later. But sort of like this decentralized, you know, version of things where, like you're saying, could access, you know, get us out of all these individual bubbles.
Well, sorry, I'm jumping to the agenda because I'm checking out who's next. But I'm perceiving Daniel is
It
not
looks like we
here.
have a break now. We have a 10 minutes break. I'm
Yes,
gonna go for a bio break. Yeah.
let's have it. Let's have that break. Thanks,
Yeah.
Pedro, for bringing that up. Okay,
Oh,
so
good.
let's have this
See you
10
soon.
minutes break, and we can keep going. See you in 10 minutes. Yep.
Cool. Well, yeah, I mean, I threw this in there. Actually, I know digital twins could actually mean multiple things in terms of how they're used, I guess. But one of the things that we're doing at ReFi DAO is building this knowledge graph of the ReFi ecosystem. And so that's like the projects, people, events, content, and how all of those things interrelate. And how we could maybe create a digital twin of that ecosystem that can then leverage AI and things like that to generate useful insights and help people find their place. So that's one topic of discussion. And the other one that springs to mind in terms of digital twins for ReFi is actually creating models of the entire world, right? And say mapping a natural, social, or economic system, and then it's almost like a form of MRV for actually looking at what the impact is and going on, and then how you then create financial systems and economic systems. That's the essence of ReFi, to then create those impacts, and then you can actually measure the impacts in the real world because you've got the digital twin of the real world. So they're two quite different topics, but I don't know if anyone in the room wants to pick up on either of those strands or has anything there.
Oh, let's specify the two paths, right? You say at the beginning is one.
So one is this knowledge graph of the ReFi ecosystem and how you create a sort of a way for multiple actors, both AI and human, to all kind of collaborate on a shared data set that is like an intelligence engine for the ReFi ecosystem. It's like a giant collaborative data set of people, projects, content, and the intersection of AI into that as well. And the other one would be about creating AI models and digital twins of the real world, or environmental, social, economic systems, and then how that informs ReFi, essentially, how that then is used to enable ReFi. I would know much less about the second topic, but if someone else if that's interesting to other people, then we can go for that.
Sure. So knowledge growth of the ReFi ecosystem. I must confess, I'm more interested about the digital twins concept, but it is because I am not really understanding what's that about.
The part two one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a really
on me.
cool...
I don't. Sorry, I don't know if I don't know anyone else in the in this room has an opinion, which path we should follow for this session, if number 1 or number 2. Hey, Rodolfo, what do you think?
So, hey guys. Yeah, I think. Well, thank you for Monty for putting this forth. I think that they're both really interesting topics. I was wondering if we could perhaps talk a little bit about what problem each one is solving. Right. So the knowledge, I think it's knowledge graph, right? Not growth.
Yeah, sorry, knowledge graph. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's the ideas of data commoning, AI commoning.
Right.
How you're maintaining that data set and making it a useful data set for people.
Right. And what problem is there today you think that would solve?
Well, I think there's multiple kind of use cases. And on one sense, there could be the onboarding use case of someone's new to ReFi, they have their past background and expertise, and they're going, okay, well, what do I want to do in the ReFi ecosystem? Where do I fit in? What projects am I interested in? What people should I connect to? How do I get started? And then there's the more like, okay, say you're already a ReFi founder and you want to do some really, smart research as to what are some of the other projects doing? What is the sector that I could disrupt? What are some people I should connect with? What are some events I should attend? Who's investing in which project? What investors should I go to? And so you could really think about anything that people are wanting to do as a ReFi organization or person could be really extended by these knowledge graphs, this knowledge graph system. And I think that in terms of how you build those knowledge graphs, at the moment we've kind of built a database through human input, right? And we're starting to decentralize that process of getting people data stewards of different maybe you have specific knowledge of a particular topic within ReFi and you could steward that topic to fill in the information. But sort of going from that system to then imagining, a system of AI co-pilots who are helping to make that data set really rich.
Right.
Interesting question to me. At current systems, I've tried with ChatGPT and various things to fill out the things, but they're not really database integrated yet. And sometimes a lot of the information they pull is incorrect. So if you had like a thing that you said, fill out the LinkedIn profiles of these 200 company names that I've got here, it could send you like half of the links will probably be wrong. And so like, has that actually even solved anything or saved you any time? Because you then have to go through and see which one was correct and not. And so I haven't found a really good solution for this yet. There are data scraping stuff that you can do, and I could look more into that, and I'm sure there will be some data scraping things. But so if anyone has any thoughts there on both the human side, the decentralized side, and then how AI could augment or extend or enhance this, or any other thoughts on that topic, I'd be really interested to hear it.
Yeah. Have you heard of the Geo browser?
The Geo browser.
Yeah, it's geobrowser.io.
Geo.
Could you drop the link here in the chat,
I
Rodolfo, so I can?
I will.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
Got it here.
So it's one of the founders of the graph started that. It's fairly new. I think it's maybe like months old through like the whatever beta they have. So they changed the website even since I saw it last, but it seems to try to address similar ideas about, but it's definitely a knowledge graph app, right? But then I don't know like the details of how how this could work. And but anyway, I think that they do have even some online meetings and what have you.
Looks really cool. Yeah. So I wonder
I
how.
haven't looked into it though, so I don't know. It just reminded me when you were talking.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure how it might work, but that's something to explore. I'm just thinking there was another tool as well that just trying to find it because I think it might be quite interesting for people.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting topic. Sorry, I didn't mean to, take us off track.
No, I mean, that is a lot of people are using this one called Obsidian as well.
Oh yeah.
Knowledge graph side, but the user experience at the front end doesn't seem that great. Because that's another thing is a lot of graphs can be created and like knowledge maps, and then it's sometimes actually they don't get used because you think, oh, that's cool, you can see a little thing, but it doesn't actually provide, it doesn't get used or provide the insights in the right way, or maybe it means more to the person who built it than someone new who just sees a bunch of information points. And so in some ways, once you've got a really rich data set there, then if we can implement language models on top of that to then chat to the ReFi ecosystem, in some ways, or kind of imagine those techniques as well. And this is something I do, but it's there's so much more we could be doing with the data set we've got, and this could really be a full-time thing. So it's going to be a bit of a journey because there's only so much I have capacity for, but really interested in exploring what AI tools we can use as soon as possible, really, to help.
And also, like, connecting real quick to this point, that's something that I've been personally exploring and quite interesting. And one thing that I saw is that like there are a lot of like these initiatives of different communities, like building these knowledge graphs, like knowledge bases and so on. But I'm interested, like, if there's already how can these knowledge bases communicate to some other somehow? So how could you have like a structure, for example, that like one community is building a knowledge base, and if you want this like knowledge base can be integrated like with another one, or be part of like a somehow like federated system. You guys know of anything like that can do these kind of things, or
you're talking about interconnecting the various different graphs? Yeah, I know there was the Collaborative Technology Alliance, and this was kind of like a working group that formed in this kind of region of how you do that. And I think it is a difficult challenge, and it's about how you create the kind of linkages of the schemas, and I think there are various initiatives in that direction. I wouldn't say that it's been solved yet, and there's lots of exploration in that way. But at the moment the system we're using is quite basic. We're just using an Airtable, right? And kind of I'm the database admin essentially, but how we've managed to create the more decentralized access is then we've made it publicly editable, and from our website refidao.com, where you can create an account and then steward different parts of the database, and then that connects to the Airtable. Like, it's a Web2 system, right? And obviously longer term we want to move this into a Web3 system, have blockchain based profiles and voting and curation and management and all that kind of stuff, and in token incentives, and enhance it with AI. And so it's the real, it can be the confluence of all three of those things. But yeah, we're sort of taking it one step at a time, I guess, because we've got a working system as of yet, but it's a question about how to, scale it and make it better, and things like that.
Cool. Yeah, and I think that's an important point, like how to get people to contribute, like to the knowledge base. I started building a knowledge base like based on Obsidian that would be somehow like used by worked on the community, so that like different people would create like different topics, like different nodes and so on. But it's quite, I think, like, current mechanisms and tools to do it. It can only be done like in a somehow like complex way. There isn't like such so easy for it to get like a big engagement like by like communities, and people really use it like a lot, like you mentioned, like about getting people to use, and not only like the initial people who set up this, for example.
Yeah, exactly. So I wonder if anyone's had experience with using refidao.com or browsing any of the kind of initiatives, and would be very interested to hear what your experiences has been of that. Has there been any useful insights that you've collected, or was it not useful at all? Did you just look at it for a second and think that's, anyway, I won't do any more prompting, but whatever your thoughts or experiences are would be interesting to hear.
From my side, I explored a bit of the databases like from ReFi, and I think it's quite useful and quite relevant to have like this a place where you can get like information about like the broad ecosystem, basically, that you can go after like to see projects and so on, people working on it. One that I really liked and also got to contribute a bit is the one from the common map from Retrospective, the Web3 like climate. I don't really remember the name, but I think it's like really cool to also see like the connection between different things. So for example, like the connection between projects, like what are the possible like partnerships or integrations that are that exist. And I think it's also like on the point, like from the previous session, like that Pedro was mentioning, like these kind of sense making, like it's important like to have a sense making like platform and kind of like mechanisms, and to be easier to grasp like what the ecosystem is, like what are the relationships, like how one project is interconnected to the other, like how one, let's say, like protocol allows like the development of another on top of it, for instance. And so I think it's quite relevant.
I know that I think Climate Collective is building one that's like a map of, say, ReFi assets and what chains they're built on and what bridges exist. And so it's a kind of like technical map in that way, and that can have some specific applications. And so, and then I wonder how you can then combine all of those to create this sort of master knowledge graph that they're all interconnected. I mean, it's a kind of ambitious vision, but it could be really interesting. I just don't know technically how you'd necessarily do that, but
it is funny because we have the same challenge on Trusted Seed. We're trying to map all the organizations that actually participate or are represented by us during this experience, but we are still don't know how to properly do it in terms of really perceive this interconnection. I mean, as you mentioned, Luis, how can we can interact and find ways of what's this? I was trying to say something, but I forgot while talking. Like this connection between us, between organizations. How can we better help each other with our missions, our current challenges, and probably build partnerships, all this process. How can we better map what we currently have in order to get better or better results, or just better relationships with across the ecosystem? So this is really interesting for us too. You can help us.
And the thing is it's always changing, right? The data is always changing, so it's not like, and it would be a continuous job for one person to continually update all of the information, which is why I think it just needs to be this more decentralized system where there's a bunch of different nodes and people who are locally responsible for stewarding a bit of the data set that they know most about. And, so for example, you guys will be best placed to steward the information around Trusted Seed organizations. But and then also having AI co-pilots in there as well. But then also you have to make sure that people actually then are incentivized and do actually do the thing of updating it. Because, things like this becomes out of date pretty quickly, because you've mapped all the interconnections, but the whole ReFi space and Web3 space moves at the speed of light. And so, they were funded using Polygon chain 6 months ago. They've now moved to X chain and partnered with 3 different organizations, and all of that legacy information is completely out of date. So like, that's a pretty complex challenge. And, I just think that it needs to have an AI system somewhere in there that's keeping track of those connections to actually see when they might need updating. And I really don't know what AI systems there are that can do that right now. To be honest, if there even is one at all.
Yeah, especially because we are trying, or the objective will be to minimize manual work. But
Yes.
that's the challenge. So as you notice, how can we better use AI to provide us that data, organize it, and updated it
Yeah.
real time, which is really hard. This is amazing.
Yeah.
But
also it needs the human element as well, because I don't know if people have mentioned this problem before as well, is that we're moving into the age, because now we're going to use AI for everything, the generation of fresh data actually is going to be lacking. And so by having the base that we've got of having this really well, human put together, accurate data set on what ReFi is, it actually is the mechanism that's used to feed the AI to then find and enrich the new models you can create on top of it. So yeah, it's about how you balance the two really, and create the systems that have both the AI and the human curators as well. So I think we've kind of got ReFi DAO, we've got the system at the moment in terms of the human curators, because we can all do that through the website, and we need to scale that a bit more and get more participation, and there's lots of stuff we continue doing in that, but we really haven't scratched the surface of, I think, the AI side of it, which is what I'm really interested to see what stuff out there that might be.
Yeah, exactly. And I just really quick, I shared the link of this like Meta Crisis wiki that is like done on Obsidian, and I think it's a really good example of how there could be like these cool interactive knowledge bases using Obsidian. So you have like the different nodes, and you can see like the relation, like the connection between them. But yeah, there is the problem that it's not so easy to get like different people like contributing to it. It's possible with an underlying like GitHub repository, but then there is quite an additional level of complexity. But I think like, coming back to what you were mentioning, Monty, I think like then it's like really important to see like what is the incentive like for people to be maintaining this information, to have this kind of like incentive layer, so that like a project would have the interest like to update their own information, or and these kind of things.
Yeah, I also, when I look at something like this, I just don't see, it's designed for a machine and doesn't feel very human friendly. Like, I don't know how many people are actually digging through this and using it in that way, because in a way, presenting content just with a nicely thought out narrative in a podcast format, in a blog or an article, is much more accessible and engageable than this kind of slightly confusing map where, if you, I don't know, I just don't know how useful this bit is yet, unless it's for the machine. So it's useful for the machine because it maps all the interconnections between and then the AI can use that in a semantic way. And so, I mean, I guess you need both, right? You need the kind of the back end stuff that's really useful for the AI models to sift through the knowledge set. And then how you translate that to a front end experience that is actually useful for humans as well.
Yeah. And I also think like another way, I think it could be like useful on the back end, like not only for the AI, but even like for people and like communities. I think like, and I think that, for instance, like should be something quite maybe like fitting with ReFi DAO. If you have like a big community, like with a lot of people like producing content decentralizedly, so like producing, like doing podcasts, like doing writing like articles and these kind of things, I think it's then interesting to have like this shared like knowledge base, so that you can like refer to things. So for example, like you want to mention like the catastrophic risks, you don't really need to like have to do your own research and your own development like of the idea, but you can like go and refer like to the concept that has already been developed by the community, and use the community like knowledge, right, like when like content is being produced and so on.
Yeah, totally. I totally agree with that. Yeah,
This
just
is
wondering.
this is amazing.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah,
it.
what I'm wondering is how, like, for example, so I work for a Web2 company. I've been doing Web3 stuff on the side for a few years. And my company is doing a lot of AI work on CRM specifically, right? And when you think about that, so there's one use case, right, where a marketer can go and say, hey, you know, I'm really interested in figuring out who may be the the people most likely to buy XYZ and that like doing ABC, right? And then the LLM understand. I mean, there's a lot of prompting in the background, right? Structured, right? So that it can take that information and it can translate it to the data that exists, right? And then with that, because you don't know, you know, the user won't know how to do like SQL statements and what have you, and that's just part of it, right? But then it basically creates an audience, right? What marketers would spend like many hours trying to figure out what is the right clustering of, you know, like people that to create different audiences, right? So the reason I mentioned that is, you know, in these cases, right, people are lazy in general, right, myself included, and asking people and pushing people to keep it like their information updated is, I think, is really like a huge, like, people are already busy, like the attention is already consumed. The way that in Web2 this is being done is like, well, we actually have transactions, we have interactions, we have like all these things that people have done, right, at scale, and now we can make some inferences about that, right? So I wonder if, you know, if it's maybe at the beginning you do need to have a lot of like curation and people kind of like getting data, right? But I guess the question I would have is, how do you get that at scale, that like at, you know, whatever, like 100 million people, that doesn't scale, right? So how do you think about, or how would we think about, right, using transactions, using, I don't know, incentives, using other things where people like in their natural way of doing things every day are providing that information, right, willingly, but yeah, but without the prompt to input data, I guess.
Yeah, you need some sort of like data co-op in some ways, where like all of the ReFi organizations, like, I don't know, they're obviously not all going to share their docs with each other, but like, and messages and things like that. But you know, it's a difficult. Yeah, I mean, that seems.
But
like
I mean, maybe even just starting with POAP or something silly like that, right? Where every organization has a POAP, right? So if you can just start tagging the POAPs to say, hey, this is for biz dev, whatever, or this is for like fundraising, and then you start connecting things in some way. I mean, I don't know. I'm just kind of like shooting from the hip a little bit. But yeah, what are the data kind of like atoms that are out there that we could latch on to?
Yeah. I think for now, I'm at the scale the ReFi ecosystem is. I think
100%.
The system works to an extent.
Yeah.
But just looking out for what could be on the horizon and what could enhance the processes at the moment is definitely interesting. And then there's the super speculative stuff. But by then, like, there'll be some whole new set of tools that that'll be for this kind of stuff. So yeah, maybe that's just being, you know, we just need to be comfortable with where we're at the moment and just keeping finger on the pulse on seeing how the stuff emerges, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's a great mindset. Yeah.
I think definitely one of the next steps is, because we've got all this data, is let's create a custom model that then is specifically trained on our data, that then creates a sort of ChatGPT like interface for it. And does anyone know of any tools that might be the best use for that?
I was just checking out, like, from the last session, the thoughts that Chris shared, like, from GitHub. I didn't really got like how it's trained, like how where the data comes from. But that looked quite interesting. So I think somehow.
Because I also imagine, I know our time's up, just one final point, would be like, imagine if you've curated all of the top academic papers and content as well in ReFi, regeneration, climate, all connected concepts. And like, then you have a super smart, and then you combine that with the contextual data of people, projects, you know, the actual stuff of the ecosystem, like combining those two could generate some like crazy new insights and like really targeted strategic initiatives and things. And that is something that tangibly we could do right now, really, with the data that we've got. And so, yeah, food for thought. I appreciate we got to the end of the session, but if anyone has any additional ideas, and then yeah, feel free to ping me on Telegram or anything, or and yeah.
Thank you so much, Monty and Luis and Rodolfo, everyone that joined this session. Was really interesting to learn about this. And as I said, this is also a challenge for Trust to create this map. I think we are all in the same boat, probably doing the same things, but trying to, yeah, we're doing it like in the best way we consider that it is appropriate, and will depend on the objectives of each organization too. So yeah, but I'm glad we had this this session, because we now have this moment to brainstorm around these ideas, and probably to a way of, or a clear way, or the tools that we can probably use to perform this idea. So thank you so much. I'm not sure what who is next, because if I'm not wrong, I stopped sharing screen. Let me share screen. Because if I'm not wrong, we are here. But yeah, you now see my screen, yes. But I'm not sure who is interested on presenting these topics. So if you know, you have an idea, but we can discuss, because you presented this topic, but there are extra topics here, but we don't have the name of the person that put or add this topic in the agenda. So I don't know who's next. Or we can propose a different thing. That's also something we can do, just in case. The person that
is there on the topic of reputation systems, does anyone have like a good I don't know, like a recommendation of either white papers or I don't know, blog posts or anything related to that? I'm working on something that has a reputation component, and yeah, I was curious to see if anyone had that.
I'm not sure from this side.
What was the question? Sorry, a white paper on reputation.
Yeah, or any recommendations, anything that you've seen or read that you think is worth taking a look at. Because I feel, you know, like many things, it's a big thing, a big theme. So yeah, almost like a knowledge graph of, you know, the knowledge around reputation in Web3 would be really interesting to kind of like follow how different people are thinking about that. Yeah,
I know that there's a lot of buzz around soul-bound tokens after the paper Decentralized Society, Finding Web3 Soul, by Vitalik Buterin and Glenn Weil. And I think that, you know, there's also some concerns around soul-bound identity, because, you know, you don't have one fixed identity that's with you forever. But I think there's also a lot of good applications for it. But it's not everything, right? Because we're looking at implementing some of this in ReFi DAO, essentially, and having NFT reputation systems and stuff like that. But I think you also have to balance the technical side you know, with the ability for that to be gamed, or for the people who are maybe most showing up for that being the least kind of people you actually have the most higher skills and expertise, because the people with the highest skills and expertise probably don't have time to participate in your kind of gamified reputation system and don't engage with it. So, but the people who are like, yeah, I'm going to complete your course, and it's a generalization, but I think that's one of the risks, I think. So what we're looking at maybe is you have both the kind of quantifiable metrics, like people showing up, doing this, produced that, completed this, combined with like the human side of other people vouching for them, accountable experts, you know, maybe going, this person actually is really skilled and knowledgeable and stuff like that. And so when you combine the two of those, metrics with the more qualitative stuff, then I think that's where you start to really get that reputation system. And so it's certainly something that I'm thinking about, because we're kind of on a journey of, you know, we haven't launched our token yet, and we're sort of thinking about an exit to community by end of year kind of stuff. And so how do we decide who are the community members who are, you know, this is slightly not, you know, I'm not sure how much should be saying in terms of, but basically, yeah.
This is an open session. Don't worry, Monty.
Yeah.
This is like an open discussion, because we don't have like a host properly. So we are all of participants. We are the hosts for this session. So that's nice. I don't know if I captured this idea properly. You are talking about quantification plus quality of contributions, or?
It was the quantitative metrics, and in terms of like someone's showed up to this, someone's you know, participated in this way, you know, maybe there's a POAP or a soul band, you know, this kind of stuff, tokens. And then there's the qualitative metrics, which are like, you know, I would rate someone in terms of, you know, I've worked with this person and I vouch for that they were really good at this or really good at that, or you know, so then how do you implement that side of it as well? Is that bringing up any, is that making sense?
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. I'm wondering, how do you know, when we talk about reputation, right? If I say, what's your reputation, right? It's really hard to, I mean, like you said, you have many different aspects of life, and you're really good at some things and you enjoy doing other things, right? And you are very passionate about certain topics, right? So there's like so many dimensions to that, right? And when I see reputation systems, they all try to encapsulate it in like one token or whatever, right? And regardless of what you do, if you show up, or if you write a paper, or if you do, you know, or if you help somebody cross the street, right? It's all the same, right? So that part I find difficult to wrap my head around in terms of reputation for what, right? And what's the right level of granularity, right? I don't think that having one metric is the right level. I don't think that having 100,000 for each person is the right level, right? But yeah, I don't know if you've come across that potential. I see it as a problem. I don't know if you do. Aggregating basically everything to one thing, right? But now you have, yeah, some ranking potentially, but also you lose the heterogeneity, right, of the community and what people can bring to the table.
Yeah, certainly. I think that there's no way that it should be ranked into one metric, because like you say, reputation is very contextual.
Yeah, exactly.
And there should be a plurality of reputations within different skill sets, communities, applications, contexts, I guess. And so, you know, we might be interested in specifically your ReFi reputation, and that could take the form of, have you done positive impact things? Have you retired carbon? Have you participated meaningfully in ReFi projects? Have you brought your skills, resources to the ecosystem? Have you shared, you know, written an article? Have you, you know, promoted it in the right way and done projects that have provided value to people, community initiatives? you know, so how can we aggregate all of that to provide your ReFi reputation? That's not going to be your reputation in every other community, in every other sector, and in every other way, but it's useful maybe to other members of the ReFi ecosystem to be able to see, you know, that. And in some ways at the moment, like your Twitter profile is basically that and your LinkedIn,
right?
Because people can just see the projects that you've been associated with, the things you've done. And so in some ways, the NFT stuff is like almost an additional layer. It makes it more programmable across communities in some ways, and it gamifies it a bit. You know, and then you can, programmable, I think, is one of the main ones, because then you can sort of say, you know, you can aggregate, you can collect all of that data, you can token gate certain things, you can, you know, start to do all the Web3 stuff with that reputation, right, across the web, as opposed to just like on Twitter.
Yeah.
I'm not an expert, but I mean, probably you can use like the best system or tracking somehow your reputation across the Web3 ecosystem. But at the end, I consider the most important part is what actually Monty is referring to, like how you can engage with others inside and outside the organization, and what mechanisms you are providing to promote this participation between communities. What actually at the end lead us to the question like what is really valuable for you, and how do you pretend like to provide this sense of value to that reputation. I mean, what actions are you taking right now, and which is the potential value that those actions can have? Because I don't know, I consider that reputation is a really abstract concept sometimes. Bianca wants to talk. Okay, Bianca, go ahead. Unmute.
Oh, I was gonna wait until you finish. You can finish.
Oh no, it's okay. Go.
Okay, thanks. No, I was just gonna say, like, you guys are talking about this reputation, and it keeps coming to my head about creating trust between the contributors, and it's I don't know, for me it's more like reputation. It's very sensitive in Web3 because like you can make one mistake and then you kind of have that mark forever in your back. But like it's almost like you can't do any different than that. Like you can't learn from your mistake, or you can grow after that. So I think there is a thin line between what's in this space and what is the reality. So for me, I understand that it's more about the value that we can also bring to the community that we want to help. So that's what that's why I say like creating the trust, because like you can be someone that you made a mistake in the past. You know, the Web3 system is very complicated, and especially when you're new, there's a lot of things still to learn. But like that's the point, like you learn and you make it different from that point. So then you build trust within the people that you work with, and that trust, like people around you will know you. And when somebody say like, oh no, yeah, but that person made a huge mistake in the past, and then the people that work with you who knows you can also say like, okay, I understand, but I don't put that in them. I don't see them that way. I see the work and the value that they bring to the community, and I trust this person. I've been working with this person for X time, and I know that like they made a mistake and they regret it, but it's not who they are. Like that, we can't let something like that be representative of the person itself. So I think when we work on that, when we have that perspective of building the trust within the people in Web3, for me at least, and for the people that I work with, we see that as more valuable than just like what their names are known out there. Does it make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Totally.
Um,
It
I'm
is-
also, yeah, I also have another point to raise, like when it comes to reputation. I'm curious how we can make sure that the reputation of system that we establish is fair. Like I know that they're like silent workers who bring so much value in the community that we don't know of. How can you make sure that their reputation is equally valuable or high, or yeah, the same as other people who are working and being whose work are much visible. So yeah, it's something that maybe we can I don't know how we can uh solve in if there's a solution or a formula, and making sure that this reputation system is fair for stakeholders that are not as visible as the other people in the community, but are doing great work in the yeah in so that's something I want to raise.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that's a really valid point, right? That it's easier, like with praise, for example, it's very easy to give praise to the people that you know the most, right? So it's almost like becomes a little bit like a popularity thing, right? Rather than a contribution thing. Yeah, that's a great question. I don't know.
Andrea, do you want to add
Yeah,
something?
I have a
Okay.
question. Does anyone have or know of an example which they think a reputation kind of system has been implemented well, especially one that uses kind of the quantitative metrics plus more the human element? Are there any examples of like projects that are doing that well, or at least getting close to it?
I think I have one, but I'll preface it a little bit with kind of like what we're talking about of around the intent or the objective of reputation, right? I think that's really important. The context is really important, right? Because should this person get a grant? Should I give them money? Is different than is this person, a cheerleader for the group and brings people together. Those are different things, right? So the reason I say that is that this project called Coordinate, if you probably have, some of you have heard of it. But basically what they do is they have these circles, right? It's for people small teams that work together. And then at the end of each epoch, they give each other, tokens, right? So everyone gets like something like 100 tokens. And then by the end of the project, you say who contributed the most, and you can't keep the tokens, you have to give them out, right? And in that way, everybody kind of like the subjective contribution of everyone in that smaller team, right? This works probably well with small teams, not with huge teams, gets calibrated, and then yeah, people kind of like know who, at least from the team's point of view, who contributed the most, right? And I think that even the payment, they can decide to actually split payments based on the amount of contribution that they give each other, right? So it could be like one person is really like amazing and they've been doing most of the work, and they get most of the payment for that project, right? I can write it because it's spelled weird.
Andrea, do you want to add something, or it's just praised because get frozen?
Yeah, no,
Okay.
I just would like to know more examples. Just I'd like to investigate this topic a bit further, and just having those examples just really helps. But yeah, if anyone knows of any other ones, then just like feel free to share it or write it in the document. I'm really interested.
Yes. Well, praise is the one that it is used on Trust.seed. I don't know if you had the opportunity to interact with it, but it is yeah, it is a great tool. It started just as a way of acknowledge people and contributions, and has been evolving since then. And now even use AI to provide profiles of specific people. You can ask the tool to provide a profile. For example, if you look at me, you can see what I have been working on, based on the data, of course, is receiving from others. So it is a way of really, yeah, perceive that, yeah, that information in another way. It also enables to have this acknowledgement of each contribution. Of course, this is still keep evolving over time, but I think it's a really good successful tool. Coordinate, this is the other one that I'm actually adding to the documentation here, and is a very nice tool also. If I'm not wrong, TC was using Praise with another tool. I'm not sure if it is Coordinate, but they are combining tools also to reach this yeah, it is successful, for saying it, a successful implementation on find better ways of as Ivy also mentioned, better ways of equally distribute and provide some visibility to others. We are still trying to reach out the perfect way of doing it, right? There are other, of course, tools available in the ecosystem. These are just the most, the one we know. If anyone else has any other, we can add it here. But yeah, I can just talk about Praise. That's the one I really enjoy and I use because, of course, it is in more embedded in our ecosystem, in the Givet Galaxy overall. Anyone else? Oh, there is a pending question here. How do we or you can launch a token nowadays? Source grid. Yeah, that's the one. Source grid. Well, let's put it here. Thanks, Liz. Oh, seems like hey Max, do we still have time to keep the discussion going, or?
Yeah. We have until like another 40 minutes for the discussion. So it's kind of, I see like it went a bit maybe ahead of schedule because I thought like there should be finishing the data commons session and reputation system in Web3 would come just after that, which is not a problem, just but what was in the agenda.
Yes. Well, we don't know who added this parts.
I see.
That's the problem. So we started like, hey, let's pick this one, and we started discussing about this. But yeah, if anyone, I mean, if the person that added these ideas is here, we can jump to another topic probably, or just keep brainstorming around reputation systems.
So from few sessions I visited, like it initially was the regulation, then the like UBI and like privacy and stuff. Some of the ideas, and again, like reputation here, some of the ideas are that the real monetization factor in the systems is more data rather than the model, because like model is once trained and then it's like more or less again just computing power. But the problem is or like the interesting aspect of it is can AI be interfaced to really unique data? If like, and I think reputation is something like this data. I've heard some rave stories about somebody doing a recommendation introduction to some people and like earning like $1 million commission out of this recommendation. I think during COVID, there was a guy who connected Korean mask producers with some US hospital and earned $1 million a day as a fee from that connection. And again, I'm not like it may be a radical case, but I'm now coming, as we will like probably start building something within Trusted Seed after this conference, hopefully. And we're always looking how to support commons and so on. So for me, it kind of navigates towards the unique information we can somehow aggregate and make sense of it through the AI, not taking some person always knowing like everybody or like every other aspect of who's doing what. So I just wanted to share this like meta perspective on what we were discussing, and that reputation. Again, like for example, we have this trust score reputation, which is just a number. It says like, yeah, this is like a big contributor or a small contributor. But for example, recently the guys from Praise, they started to like aggregate or generate profiles for contributors based on with AI based on the praises they got. So that generated like a whole set of new information or like interesting information that can be used for the networking or building connections. So I might want to explore this a bit more, how we as a community can get together our collective knowledge and then build a successful product, proceeds of which can go to the community fund or something.
Also, speaking about trust, you can also mention Max or upcoming working group speaking about reputation inside Trust Seed too. Because
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting work now happening along reputation. And what I learned more, we're gathering a working group. There are like, for example, the guys who built something called region score, as like there was like Degen score, like this region score. We also like wanted to extend our data, not just based on the what we know about people, but maybe also include like what kind of other like region tokens they support or like their reputation in the other communities. There is one of the projects which is made for the artists or like creatives that does something like that based on the like also like some profile generation based on the tweeters of people. So like what kind of art do they provide and what are the topics and so on. So I'm just thinking about this kind of meta collaboration between like reputational layers to make use of this data and create some useful products for the community itself, first of all, but then potentially monetize it.
Thanks.
Yeah, just connecting to that, one thing that I think would be quite interesting would be, for example, if each organization, each project, each community has its own mechanism for the if each community, like project, organization now has its own reputation system to like give to contributors, how could you possibly have an AI analyzing kind of this network of subjective somehow reputations? So, for instance, if you're let's say like a ReFi project looking for to get additional contributors that already have like some experience in the ReFi ecosystem, how could you have, for example, a network, kind of like a graph of all different organizations that uses this they use these reputation systems, and then basically weight what would be the reputation relevant to this specific application, like considering the interconnectedness of things. So giving kind of a more concrete example, like if you're like a ReFi project and wants to get like someone like contributor for a specific role, it would be more relevant to see the reputation that someone got from other ReFi projects than from, I don't know, like some DeFi protocols, for instance. How could you have kind of like this weight, like according to the relationships like between projects, between ecosystems, to see what is the relevant reputation for of a person would be for specific context?
There's a little bit of background noise here, so I apologize if you can hear music. But I've worked a little bit in digital identity and reputation stuff over the last decade, mostly as part of the rebooting Web of Trust community, if any of you are familiar with that. But early on at that first rebooting Web of Trust event, some folks that I had known for a while through the Internet Identity Workshop encouraged some of us that were working on the design of reputation system stuff to keep in mind a principle, and that was it's tempting oftentimes when you're trying to design reputation systems to focus on the behavior that you want to prevent, like the bad actions you want to keep from happening. And Randy Farmer, who wrote the book on building web reputation systems and dealt with reputation at Yahoo for a long time, as well as one of the creators of the SMTP standard, the standard for email, Dave Crocker, I think. They both encouraged some of us to go, hey, what are the behaviors you want to grow? When you're designing reputation systems, focus primarily on recognizing the behaviors you're wanting to encourage, as opposed to the behaviors that you're wanting to discourage. If you focus on the behaviors you're wanting to prevent, you often end up designing systems that will have a hard time actually getting that information to flow, because reputation is always about the passing along of information, and people will bend over backwards to try to prevent negative information from getting passed along, but they'll also bend over backwards to try to assist in positive information getting passed along. So you can usually solve the same problems by focusing on what are the behaviors you want to grow, what are the things we want to recognize, how do we want people to establish credibility, right? Or credit, essentially. You can typically get the same outcomes without having some of the same drawbacks, because in addition to negative focused systems kind of having a hard time with the flow of information, they also often result in really problematic relational patterns within the community, right? Lots of sort of toxic kind of side effects that are just an accidental consequence of your design. So that's a principle that I've tried to keep in mind ever since.
Thank you so much, such an insightful info. Can you maybe give an example of some relevant reputation system and like what kind of behaviors stimulus was applied?
Sure. So, I mean, just off the top of my head, if you're wanting people to pick their kids up on time, right? You could focus on bad actor pick their kids up late as the signal, as the grammar, the form of the information that you're wanting to make shareable in that system. Or you could focus on pick their kid up on time. Like, I'm signing this statement that says, yep, showed up on time. They're kind of similar, right, in terms of what they actually communicate. But if you focus on, hey, I can show up and ask somebody to watch my kid, and I can bring into this request for childcare essentially a history of 400 times that I've shown up at 4 o'clock when I said I was going to show up at 4 o'clock to pick up the kid. That is much more likely to work than I've got 3 negative reviews, right? I'm less likely to I might not participate in that system any longer if the only thing that's visible is that I'm bad in these 3 ways, as opposed to the 400 times I was good. Also related to that, if you have people who have established a fair amount of credibility in whatever dimension, right, that is an asset that they carry with them. And if there is negative information in the system, little caveats, warnings from the community about, he's kind of a jerk, or whatever the thing may be, I may still be able to show up with that sort of persona, as opposed to trying to abandon it, which is often the case when you've got systems that are focused on what are the whack-a-mole kind of behaviors we're wanting to avoid or prevent or make less frequent. So yeah, I'll leave that there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, sure. I'm thinking about again, some reputation system might be super prescriptive. Like, for example, how many times you showed up, you want you to show up. But then every system, where reputation is contextual, to the system, systems tend to evolve and these behaviors tend to evolve. I'm thinking about on the one hand, for example, in the praise system, it seems like the pattern is just to make people happy, and then they can voice their happiness, but not for the specific thing, not 5 points for the Gryffindor, and it's just thanks for doing that, or wow, I didn't expect this, or something. But then it becomes a bit less it's kind of rich of information, but then it's then not so easy to make sense of it until you really read all of everything. So it's I'm, for example, in Trusted Seed, we also have 3 key domains of work, and I'm responsible for the domain called rewards. And I'm looked a bit into there is rewards and awards. Rewards was a specific thing done, but awards are just for you being something, and it's super powerful things. All of this tokenomics, everything is intended to change the behavior or direct the behavior, and it's super curious how with reputation we could reputation is could be a huge factor for finding job, securing investment, and so on. But it's also not so easy to formalize it. It's not you can try to trick the system, but it will work only for some brief time. And then everybody's trying to appear as somebody, if it's becoming a pattern, and then it just loses the sense of being authentic to something. People will ask every reputation system, now people ask yeah, can you give me a plus? I'll give you a plus in return. So.
Yeah, it's interesting. My background, I work on a project called Holochain, which is not a blockchain, but it's another approach to distributed coordination. And to be honest, a lot of our focus was on enabling communities to evolve their ways of being in relationship and the kinds of games that they want to play together for this very reason. The idea being, you bake something that's fairly rigid in place, and the communities, certain parts of that community are going to figure out ways to exploit that. And so you actually need the capacity to evolve those agreements, those ways of being in relationship. And the other piece I'll say is for the way that I think about this, at least, and I believe that most of us in the Holochain community sort of view it in this way, is we're trying to come together and constrain our ways of being able to interact in particular ways, right? We're wanting to go, hey, these are the reputation systems that we're making use of, or these are the grammars, or this is what we're expecting of one another. And that's useful because it enables us collectively to get sort of a different social behavior that emerges as a result of that. But our lived experience, like you were saying, Max, might be, hey, there's some gaming stuff going on here with tit for tat, basically fraud, right? For juicing how we appear in the system as opposed to what's actually happening, how we're really showing up. And so that's, for us, part of why it's really important that the community be able to go, to be able, external to the architecture that's been put in place, the lived experience can enable people to go, ooh, this isn't working well enough. We need to try something different, right? We need to shift something and then be able to do so. The only other thing I'll say is, for me, that pattern of relationship feels very different than one where, you've got some architects, well-meaning perhaps, but who are designing a system that's really kind of incentive oriented, and that they're in the sense of trying to puppeteer a whole bunch of other humans' behavior, as opposed to us going, what's the game that we're wanting to play together? And is that game that we've currently chosen to play together, is it working well enough for us? And if not, how do we want to change it so that it'll work better? That to me feels like a much more, I don't know, hopeful or like human experience, as opposed to, okay, I've stepped into somebody's little marionette game and I'm now being, forced to dance in these particular ways. That doesn't feel so rich or exciting to me. That feels more scary.
Can we maybe try to have this discussion, like we have some people here, and try to think about the reputation system that would make sense for this small community here, and just try this conversation about what games we want to play. How would you initiate that conversation?
I'm brand new to the community. I'm 5 minutes in. So if anybody has any thoughts on kind of, I guess, first and foremost, what is it that is pulling us together, and how are we hoping to interact, right? At this point, for me, it feels like, oh, cool, this is a co-learning opportunity. But I don't know beyond that what the goals and objectives are. I lurked a little on Telegram, but I wasn't involved in many of the organizing pieces. So anybody got thoughts?
I do, but I'll give space just to not over all the time.
Let me ask a slightly different question. If any of you, Luis, Simon, Artiste Anonym, Ivy, Catherine, Inisi, Max, if any of you have ideas, let's jot them down in the chat. Let's take 2 minutes and just write anything that comes to mind in the chat, so we can do a little bit of parallel work, and then we can kind of come back together as a group and explore. And if there's nothing there, if there's no energy, then there's no energy, but let's give it a shot.
So the question is, what brings us together, and what would coordinate one or something?
What are some ways in which this community might be aided by systems that make visible some of the flows of activity? That's how I think of reputation and kind of currencies more general. What are some signals that might be useful for this community in doing the things that we're interested in doing together?
I put it just in the chat to not forget, and yeah, I'll gladly think about it. It's super important for me, at least. Hey, Sam. Just a quick context for you. We're talking about the reputation systems, and now like a small individual, like 2 minutes question to find how visible flows of activities can aid the community, and what are you interested to participate as part of the community. Just in case, yeah, I see you on mute. Let me know if you need any help.
Oh, are you in the like a Miro board or something?
Well, we write our ideas just in the Zoom chat, and Yini is sharing the screen where she makes notes out of our conversation.
Okay.
We'll finish in our last session before we go into the closing round and retrospective.
Okay, got it.
Do we need an extra minute, or if somebody is writing ideas? Oh, I see from Luis. We'll probably wait for Matthew to make some sense out of it. Thanks, Ivy. Thanks, Simon. So I see like from the patterns, it's about sharing, exploring, connecting, learning, experimenting, building,
And data interconnection.
providing. Yeah, maybe we collected some stuff.
Sorry, I had somebody who I have to have a conversation with who walked up. Like I said, I'm splitting duties right here. This all looks really good though.
So do you think our reputation system that should indicate those kinds of behaviors like sharing, exploring, connecting, learning and stuff?
I think I have to step away again, but I think that's right. I think there's stuff along those lines, and I think there's also things that can be used inside of some of these AI and distributed ledger contexts that have to do with signal to noise, being able to identify, is somebody contributing data into the training of a model that is actually undermining the integrity of that model? So those kinds of things might be useful as well, but that may be too deep in the technical weeds. I think I have to run. Bye all. I'm looking forward to jumping onto the next call.
Thanks, Matthew.
Thank you. Bye.
Well, unless anybody wants to share some final thoughts on this topic, we can proceed further with the closing session. Thank you so much for this one. So yeah, I'll start sharing my screen. We came to the 4 hours of agenda. Not everybody survived to the very end, but thanks for those who did, and for everybody who joined in general. So I would like to proceed with the retrospective now, but before that, just few thoughts administrative wise. Here's the bulletin board where you can put any long-term suggestions. There are already some ideas what you're looking for, resources and stuff in the Miro board where you can propose. We have a request for our financial sustainability with donations and stuff. We would be really thankful for if you can donate whatever you feel appropriate as your participation or any other type of contribution you would like to make. Would be really nice. And we have lots of sessions ahead of us. Again, anybody can propose a session to the open calendar. We already have some sessions pre-scheduled. You can see them in the shared calendar, or it's just directly to you. So
yeah, at the beginning is also a small agenda that Luis created also the beginning of that website. Scroll up. Yes, there. That's the agenda with the upcoming events. And if you scroll down, you will see the details of each asset. Luis helped creating that that calendar too. Surprise to him.
yeah, if you feel like you would like to continue some conversation, I will totally do some after our initial connection, but you can reach to Yini or me, and we have some format on proposals. It can be anything, but you can maybe tell us what is the title, when do you want it, do you want it in your Zoom or anywhere else? It's here in the how to plan your activity, just in case there are some ideas here.
I shared the link here.
Yeah, thank you so much. So now to the retrospective. Yeah, just again, the link to the Miro board is here. There are some sections here. What we liked, what we learned, what we lacked, and what we longed for. Kind of what would be super nice to have further on. Not just what was missing. So if you're okay with this, I will give maybe 4 minutes to like in 5 minutes to write on these cards your ideas. So we will improve and increase the value. Is it okay? Any questions, comments? Okay. Yeah, please.
Extremely well organized. Yes, it's impressive. Your board is very good.
Thank you so much. I'll put it to the card as well. Do you need an extra minute?
I think would be nice to have an extra minute.
Okay.
Can you drop? I just joined on a different computer. Can you drop the link again into the chat? I apologize.
Of course, no worries.
I did.
Put to the.
We did.
Mhm. Sam, do you need a bit more?
It's okay if you want to finish. I'm kind of coming late, so I don't expect to any special.
You can maybe like we'll read what we have, and then you could just verbalize whatever you want as your feedback point. But yeah, like let's check out what we wrote here. Ini, maybe you would like to start with liked and pass it to somebody else to read about learned.
Yes. Well, what we liked was well organized, the people, backgrounds for Zoom, learning new concepts and about new tools, openness, sessions flow, seeing old friends making new ones, and the intro video with AI taking control. I really enjoyed that. Thanks. I probably can pass it to, let's see. Luis, are you there?
Yes, I am. So should I just, should I just like get one part from here or go
Yeah, you
over
can
a little
just
bit everything?
take learned and just verbalize what's.
Yeah, I think it was like a little bit together with that, with a little bit like also from my side. I think it was interesting to see all the different topics that people and different projects are interested in and like, working on, and like learning like to that there are these interests that are face and like what are these people and that are interested in it.
Okay, maybe you can pass to someone next.
Cool. Ivy?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, sorry, I couldn't write on the Miro board because I'm just on my phone since my laptop crashed, but I took some notes. For me, I liked the new crowd. It's different from the previous participants that we had in the last Unconference. So it's nice to see new faces, but also it's also nice to see familiar faces and seeing old friends like Wanka. I also like Max's intro video. It's really interesting, and it's something unique and creative to start the conference. And I also like the open space. I feel like most of the sessions in this conference are like open space for sharing personal experiences rather than discussing like a specific concept or so that's one thing that I also liked. This is something different than what we had in the past conference. What I learned new tools and how other people use AI, especially from Pedro. Pedro is deep into AI tools. And I feel like I think we lacked some hosts. And it would be nice to have more hosts leading sessions. And what I long for is more in-depth discussions. So yeah, those are all for me. But I'm sure that there are other upcoming sessions where we can have this in-depth discussion. So I'm looking forward to the upcoming sessions. I pass it to artist. Or was he the one who?
Artist, are you with us? Can you?
That's just me. I was saying I can jump in if no one else has left or whatever.
Sure.
I missed the whole thing, so this is kind of bad form here, but I was kind of hoping for, as you guys know, I'm building a liquid democracy platform, and I'm busy creating a proposal for how to use AI, a grant about using AI in democracy, basically. So I'm kind of hoping to have that discussion. In fact, I think I will set up a session to discuss that in particular with people, if that's a topic that people might be interested in. And so yeah, that's what I'm looking for. And I think that's all I've got.
Thank you. Simon, would you like to share some closing thoughts?
Yeah, I just want to thank you, right, for this just for discovery for me, but it is a really nice community. We had a very well organized with tools and just flowing, so very interesting. And yes, definitely some interesting conversation. And so yeah, I will dig further, and I hope to be able to talk again and let's work together.
Okay, then thank you so much. It's just an opening. We have time ahead of us. It's not just even 2 weeks, even further on, but looking to learn more and have more focus sessions during these 2 weeks. Check out the schedule. Ping if you have any questions, suggestions. This is like community platform, so we're all co-creators here. Don't feel shy or like that it's too much, like every contribution would be really welcome. On this note, thank you, and see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye. Cheers.